My mom is a white tiger. My dad is a white tiger too, but I came out a little black tiger. Dad was so furious he strung mom up and beat her for 3 days and 3 nights straight. Then turned around and pounded the chimpanzee next door for 7 more. Still, he couldn't figure out where I came from. In a rage, he walked out, left me, left mom, and left behind one tiger brother. Honestly, little brother's kind of an idiot. When I was just 1 month old, mom went out hunting one day and left the 2 of us cubs playing inside the den. Little brother, curious as ever, crept his way out of the cave. Right then, a fully grown black bear happened to pass by. One predator never spares another's young. That's just the law of the wild. The bear roared and charged straight at little brother. Little brother froze, completely blanked. At the last possible second, I grabbed him and dragged him back into the den. Mom made it back just in time, and we both survived by the skin of our teeth. If I hadn't been a tiger on the outside with a human soul on the inside, I'd have been dead long ago in this unforgiving forest. That close call made one thing clear. I need to get strong, fast. When feeding time came, mom lay down in front of us and gently exposed her belly. At first I wanted nothing to do with it, but the moment warm milk hit my throat and spread through my whole body, I was fully on board. When it comes to feeding time, I am always first in line, way ahead of that troublemaking little brother. As the months passed, I started noticing I wasn't quite like other tigers. First, my appetite was enormous. No matter how much I ate, I always felt hungry for more. Second, I was growing much faster than little brother. By 5 months, I already weighed 40 kilograms, while he barely hit 20. Around this time, we started eating solid meat. The first time I tasted wild boar, still raw and bloody, a surge of warmth erupted in my gut and rippled outward through every inch of my body. It seemed like eating meat was actually making me stronger. A month later, we were 6 months old. Mom began teaching us how to hunt. Suddenly, her eyes went sharp and cold. She had spotted something. Ahead, a herd of sika deer grazed quietly in the clearing. Every few minutes, one would lift its head and scan the surroundings. I lay still, watching Mom's every move, absorbing everything. The 3 of us were positioned downwind, so the deer couldn't catch our scent. Mom glanced back and signaled us to stay put. Using the terrain to her advantage, she belly crawled toward the herd until she was within 100 meters. Then, the moment the deer let their guard down, Mom exploded out of the low grass like a bolt of lightning, closing the distance in an instant with pure explosive power. She used her body weight to knock a stag off its feet, locked her jaws into position, and ended it. The whole hunt took less than 30 seconds. Mom dragged the stag over to us, licked the blood from the corner of her mouth, stepped back, and lay down. The message was clear: we eat first. But little brother wasn't ready for raw meat. When he tried to sneak back for milk, Mom swatted him away without a second thought. He slunk off whimpering, looking absolutely devastated. I, on the other hand, was already digging in. I finished my share and still felt hungry. I worked up the nerve and walked toward the leftovers. Mom let out one low growl, then turned her head away. Permission granted. I ate the entire lower half of the stag. Again, that powerful warmth surged up from deep in my belly. I still had no idea what this mysterious energy was. All I knew was that every time it flowed through me, I felt unstoppable. For the next few days, Mom spent her time in the clearing outside our den, wrestling and roughhousing with us, teaching us hunting and self-defense through play. Life settled into a rhythm, easy yet serious, until one day, on our way back from a hunt, a deep, bone-chilling roar rolled through the forest. A stranger, a male. Mom tensed immediately, leaping to higher ground to survey the area. Little brother hadn't moved. His whole body was trembling with fear. That night, I couldn't sleep. For the first time, I felt the weight of a real threat from the outside world. Mom began patrolling hundreds of kilometers of territory to keep us safe. This was a very dangerous sign. For days, she wouldn't let us follow her out. After days of patrols with no sign of the stranger, Mom finally let herself relax. She took us out hunting again. Then one day, something unusual stopped us cold. Out on a hunt, we came across a bear. A male, easily over 300 kilograms, reduced to nothing but a skull and bones. Beside the carcass, massive paw prints pressed deep into the ground, proof of what this stranger tiger was capable of. Mom moved in to inspect, her expression tight with unease. Even for Mom, taking down a bear that size would mean taking serious injuries, but there was no sign of injury anywhere around the site. None at all. A chill ran through me. If the 3 of us ever crossed paths with this tiger, we wouldn't make it out alive. For our safety, Mom had no choice but to lead us deep into unfamiliar forest. Driven by the threat of that unknown tiger, Mom pushed us to keep moving, never stopping. And of course, just when you're most afraid, the thing you fear announces itself. A roar rang out through the trees. Mom didn't hesitate. An overwhelming pressure closed in around her heart. She was certain something was behind us, and there was a very real chance. It was the same male we had never seen face to face. Our only option now was to put as much distance between us and him as possible. We ran, all 3 of us, non-stop, for 2 full hours. Just as we broke out of a dense stretch of tall grass and into open ground, Mom reacted first. She launched herself 2 or 3 meters forward and planted herself between us and whatever lay ahead, unleashing a roar of pure savage warning. 200 or 300 meters ahead, a powerful, heavy-bodied male tiger was already waiting. By his size and coat, he had only recently reached adulthood, but he was at his absolute peak, easily over 270 kilograms. Mom was larger than most female Amur tigers, but against a male this size, There was simply no way she could protect both of us. She had to do something. Mom let out a testing growl, hoping to drive him off, but the male didn't flinch. He walked toward her with an almost gentlemanly calm, one unhurried step at a time. It seemed he wanted to have a conversation first. The two adults faced each other in tense standoff. The tension hit its peak. I crouched in the grass, watching every move, trying to think of a way out. Then, in an instant, he lunged at her. Mom didn't back down. She charged straight back at him. The fight lasted only a moment. He found his opening, his explosive power sending Mom off balance in an instant. She hit the ground hard. One more move from her, and those long, razor-sharp fangs would snap her neck. Just as I was about to grab little brother and make a final run for it, a roar erupted from the trees nearby, burning with fury. Another male. But to Mom lying pinned on the ground, that sound was everything. With a thunderous crash through the brush, a massive Amur tiger burst into view. He radiated raw, violent dominance. He was bigger, fiercer, and more commanding than the male who had just taken Mom down. Pure killing intent poured off him. This was Dad. Dad was beyond furious. The one who dared hurt his family. How could he let that stand? In the next breath, Dad's eyes narrowed, his massive body coiling with power. Then he launched himself at the rival tiger like a bolt of lightning, watching two apex predators tear into each other. I understood for the first time just how terrifying a full-grown male Amur tiger truly was. The battle swung back and forth, both sides landing hits. But Dad's weight and experience slowly tipped the scales in his favor. Dad raked out one of the rival's eyes. Then, just as they were about to clash again, the rival tiger spun without warning, lunged toward me and Mom, and slammed a paw into me, sending me flying. Then he bolted and ran. I felt like my whole body was splitting apart. Nobody expected him to run. Dad came toward me, heavy-footed, his eyes sweeping over me, and for just a moment a flicker of tenderness crossed his face, along with something that looked like guilt. If only he had finished that coward off cleanly, his cubs would never have been caught in the middle. The fight had cost him too, though nothing critical. A few days of rest and he would be fine. I don't know how much time passed before I came to, but warmth was wrapped around every part of me, and my wounds were visibly closing before my eyes. But Mom was in far worse shape. For an animal with injuries this severe, there was little to do but wait and hope. Mom seemed to sense that her end might be near. I tried to channel my mysterious energy and share it with her, but it was completely beyond my control. I looked up and scanned the forest around me. A thought struck me. There might be medicinal plants somewhere in these woods. After all, most remedies that work for humans can work for animals too. It was early summer, the best growing season of the year, when all kinds of medicinal herbs were sprouting and thriving. If I could find some mature wild ginseng out here, that might just do it. Dad's territory was rich with life, plants and animals alike. It didn't take long. I found 2 small ginseng roots. With the help of the ginseng, Mom's condition improved. So Dad took over, bringing me and little brother out on hunts. After 2 weeks of training under him, I wasn't just stronger and more solid in build. My speed and sense of smell had sharpened dramatically. I could now pick up any scent within 30 kilometers. Finally, the day came for my first solo hunt. Following what Dad had taught me, I set out to find the ideal hunting ground. 10 kilometers from the den, I found a gently elevated ridge. The sightlines were wide open, perfect for tracking prey movement, and the wild grass grew tall and thick enough to keep me hidden. I settled in and waited. Small animals came and went along the stream in steady waves. Then a sounder of over a dozen wild boar arrived, and my mind was made up. Wild boar breed fast, and while the adults could be a real threat, the smaller ones were fast but manageable. There were 3 adults in this group. My first move was to draw them away from the rest. The moment the herd relaxed and dipped their heads to drink, I burst out of the grass. The adults reacted fastest, while the younger ones froze at my roar before scattering after the adults. I had already mapped out their escape routes in my head. I launched out of the grass and zeroed in on the scattering piglets in an instant. One of them tried a sharp cutback to fake me out, but I had watched enough nature documentaries in my past life to see through a trick like that. The moment it cut, I snapped down, and the piglet ran straight into my jaws. The taste of blood spread instantly through my mouth. I tossed the limp body aside and went after the next one. A few more runs, and the haul was impressive. In the heat of the chase, I could feel my muscles and bones changing, toughening, sharpening, my speed climbing with every stride, my reflexes now several times faster than any animal around me. All of it was almost certainly coming from the mysterious energy inside me. If I could keep pushing this mysterious energy to build my body, the strength and speed I would eventually reach were beyond imagination. On my way back with a piglet in my jaws, an unfamiliar scent hit me from the grass ahead, and it wasn't just one. A pack of gray wolves burst out. The alpha was smaller than me, but the pack was large and they had young wolves with them. What were gray wolves doing moving into tiger territory? Curious, but not concerning. The alpha threw his head back and howled a warning at the sky. I had no interest in dealing with these wolves, but this was Dad's territory, and this whole pack had just walked in uninvited. As the young heir to this territory, it was my duty to teach these trespassers a lesson on his behalf. I let loose a deep, full-throated roar straight at the pack. The alpha flinched at the sound, instinct kicking in, but then he sized me up and saw I was still a juvenile, and he spotted the kill in my mouth. The fear vanished from his eyes. He bared his fangs and took on the look of something ready to charge and fight to the death. I wasn't about to back down either. I dropped my kills, pinned them under one paw, and started eating, slow and deliberate, staring them down the whole time with pure contempt. Two little piglets, I could have swallowed them in one bite, but I took my time, tearing them apart piece by piece, right in front of the whole pack. Maximum provocation. The alpha looked thrown. If he didn't act now, the rest of the pack would start questioning him. He gave the order. The pack didn't hesitate. A few females herded the young ones back, while the rest spread out wide, forming a circle around me. A battle between tiger and wolves was about to begin. My eyes locked onto the alpha, and I charged. The pack clearly didn't expect me to make the first move. By the time they processed what was happening, the alpha was already airborne. The rest of the pack closed in from behind, snapping at my hindquarters, and in moments I had taken several bites. Something primal snapped awake inside me. I seized the nearest wolf and drove my teeth hard into its throat. A crack, and its neck was broken clean. A surge of raw power exploded inside me, and my attacks jumped to a whole new level. The pack broke. They had never seen a cub fight like this. They scattered and fled. I returned to the den and dropped the wolf carcass at the entrance, letting out a rumbling, satisfied growl as I told Mom and Dad everything that had happened. Dad heard me out, then leapt to his feet and was gone in an instant. As the ruler of this territory, he would not tolerate other predators invading his land or threatening his cubs. Watching him go, I felt something warm and rare, the feeling of being protected. Little brother couldn't wrap his head around it. Same age, same parents, so why was I so far ahead? A deep sense of defeat settled over him. About an hour later, Dad came back, carrying the alpha's carcass in his jaws alongside a few others. Life with Dad around was comfortable and secure, but it wouldn't last. Amur tigers are solitary hunters, kings without courts. Even Mom, who was raising us now, would drive us out of her territory without hesitation once we came of age. As evening fell and both Mom and Dad drifted off, I slipped quietly out of the den. A moment later, little brother came padding after me. We wandered until we reached an open patch of grass, and that's when a strange cry broke the silence. Ahead, a lynx was hunting a snowshoe hare. A lynx had no business being in tiger territory. Neither did gray wolves, yet here they were, showing up days apart. Something must have gone wrong in the forest nearby. It was time to let Dad know he needed to patrol. Back at the den, Dad sniffed the lynx fur I had brought back. His laziness evaporated in an instant. He was furious. Every inch of him transformed, commanding, dominant, and he set off to patrol his territory without wasting another second. I thought it over for a moment, then followed. Even little brother, already worn out, forced himself to push through and keep up. Dad's territory was vast. A full patrol would take at least 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Watching him move through the forest, unhurried, utterly at ease, I finally understood what true dominance looked like. Dad sprayed a thick tree trunk to mark his territory. A clear message to any intruder: this land has an owner. We followed the boundary until afternoon, and even Dad was showing signs of fatigue. We had barely settled into a shaded spot to rest when a sharp cry rang out ahead. Dad's eyes fixed on the distance. He had sensed something. He rose to his feet. Then a spotted leopard stepped into view. 6 tiger eyes locked onto one leopard. The leopard clearly panicked, spinning around and letting out a short alarm call. The tension was suffocating. Leopards don't always travel alone. Sure enough, 5 more appeared ahead of us. They seemed to believe their numbers were enough to make Dad think twice. They had seriously underestimated his will to defend his territory. And they had made one fatal mistake: never provoke a father with his cubs watching, even just for the sake of his image in our eyes. Dad would never back down. A roar tore straight through all 5 leopards. Dad didn't charge immediately, because little brother and I were his weakness. The leopards seemed to sense exactly that. Their confidence crept back up. Now I understood the saying, the young and ignorant fear nothing. Dad's restraint made the leopards believe that tigers weren't quite as fearsome as their parents had warned. I had read the situation clearly. Dad could take on all 5 without breaking a sweat. He was holding back only because of me. I threw my head back and roared, steady and fierce, then pulled little brother close behind me. That rattled the 5 leopards. They hadn't expected a juvenile to carry himself like that. Dad understood, and in the next instant, he moved like a gust of wind and was on the 5 leopards. He went straight for the nearest one with no hesitation. The pressure that radiated off him the moment he entered full combat mode. Even I, also a tiger, felt my heart seize up. The 5 leopards were in outright shock when he was upon them. In the span of a single exchange, Dad sent one leopard flying and bit deep into another's hind leg. The others had seen enough. They screamed at each other and ran. Dad paused, then let them go. He didn't give chase. He came to me first, rubbed his face against my fur, then turned and licked little brother on the forehead. He was clearly proud of me. A tiger's son is no weakling. My bravery had put a rare warmth in his eyes. Then he snatched up a leopard carcass in his jaws and sprinted toward the edge of his territory, marking it with his scent along the way. The most effective warning he could send to anyone thinking of crossing the line. About 10 minutes later, Dad came striding back, with several more heads dangling from his jaws, necks snapped clean. Time to claim the spoils. Dad picked out a fat one for himself, and I led little brother to a smaller moose nearby. In the glow of the setting sun, the long shadows of 3 tigers stretched across the land, as if foretelling the rise of a powerful young Amur tiger dynasty. Today's encounter with 5 young leopards drove home the law of the wild: the strong rule and the weak are prey. My carefree life right now existed entirely under Dad's protection, but that day would end. I had to grow stronger, fast. Another night passed. Dad led little brother and me onward, continuing the patrol. The boundary markings weren't heavily disturbed along the way, but even so, when I did a rough count, I found over 20 spots along the perimeter showing signs of intrusion. That number unsettled me. Something must have gone wrong in the neighboring territories, forcing the creatures that had lived there to flee and push into new ground. A little further ahead, the path curved toward Dad's den. After just a few days away, I felt something unexpected, the pull of home. Back at the den, Dad dropped a sika deer he had hunted along the way in front of Mom, an offering with just a hint of wanting to please. I understood. Now that Dad had confirmed his territory was secure, Mom would take us back to her own home range. But without Dad, relying on Mom alone to feed both of us, just staying full would be a struggle. It was time to sharpen my hunting skills on my own. In my past life, I was an avid fisherman. I knew better than anyone the value of a good baiting strategy. Wild boar were the most abundant prey in this territory, and for an animal that was plentiful, meaty, and not exactly sharp-witted, baiting was the simplest and most effective approach. I dug up 20 or 30 pounds of roots and tubers, and piled them at a chosen hunting spot, then lay low in the brush and waited for the boar to come to me. Human in my last life, tiger in this one. But wisdom carries across. That is what makes an Amur tiger truly feared. Before long, a sounder of wild boar appeared, led by a dominant male, creeping cautiously toward the bait. They didn't stand on ceremony for long. They were soon grunting and chomping away. Once I had locked onto a target, I belly crawled in fast and low. When the distance was right, I exploded from cover. I ignored the adults and locked onto a younger boar, maybe 50 or 60 pounds. Something in me knew I couldn't outrun it straight, so I started using feints. The first fake nearly caught me off guard. I almost lost my footing. By the time I corrected and accelerated again, the boar had opened up a good lead. By normal Amur tiger instinct, you'd cut your losses and give up at this point. But the mysterious energy inside me didn't care about stamina. I didn't tire. With a burst of speed and a roar, I launched after it again. I chased that boar for several kilometers, before finally bringing it down. When I got back to the den, Dad, Mom, and little brother were all asleep. The next morning, Mom led us away. Dad stayed in the den, no goodbye. For him, this was just a small chapter in a long life. But the moment we stepped back into Mom's territory, something was wrong. A trail of messy paw prints from another tiger, tracking a female with 3 cubs. Mom moved through the forest at a slow, deliberate pace, sending out roar after roar. She looked absolutely lethal, her eyes scanning only for the intruder, nothing else registering. They were both mothers with cubs, but Mom had no interest in sympathy. About 10 kilometers from our den, we came across more tracks from the invading tigress, and the carcass of an adult stag. Mom was livid. It was like a stranger breaking into your home, trashing the place, and leaving a pile of rotting garbage behind. Mom kept moving, releasing angry roar after roar, like a prim, dignified woman who had finally had enough and was letting it all out on the street. Over and over again. As darkness thickened, Mom went quiet, and instead climbed to higher ground, watching the surrounding forest in silence. Mom's ears tuned in to every sound in the forest, the rustling of animals fleeing in the dark. Her gaze locked onto a direction and she moved toward it. Then I caught it. A faint, distant tiger call, 200 or 300 meters ahead. In the shadow of the tree line, a noticeably lean tigress was staring straight at us. The 2 females locked eyes. Mom launched into a series of roars, and the invading tigress roared right back, refusing to be intimidated. When 2 tigers meet, there's nothing to say. You just fight. It looked almost like 2 house cats brawling, each raking the other with furious swipes, biting and rolling across the ground in a tangled heap. It lacked the sheer spectacle of 2 males fighting to the death, but it was just as bloody, just as brutal. In no time, both Mom and the intruder were bleeding, but the intruder was clearly losing ground. She was simply outmatched in size and build. Even fighting with everything she had, the outcome was sealed. Mom drove her to the ground with one heavy paw, and her jaws clamped down hard. Watching their mother go down, 3 small cubs that had been hiding burst out from the rear, rushing to their mother's side, their tiny roars high and trembling, each one trying as hard as it could to look fierce, hoping to frighten Mom into backing off. Perhaps it was the sight of those desperate cubs. Mom held back. She didn't finish it. All living things carry feeling, and Mom, herself a mother, felt it too. After a while, the defeated tigress found enough strength to push herself upright on shaking legs. When Mom saw her rise, she assumed the fight wasn't over, that this was a final desperate charge coming, and the softness in her eyes hardened back to a razor edge, ready to strike again. But the intruder seemed to know exactly what resisting would cost her. Under Mom's gaze, she lowered herself to the ground. A full submission. Mom's expression eased. If the other had surrendered her dignity as a predator, Mom would spare her and her cubs. But driving them out of her territory, that was non-negotiable. Only after watching them cross out of her territory with her own eyes, did Mom finally let herself breathe. But today's events left a deep wariness in her heart. This tigress who had trespassed into her territory, if she hadn't lost her territory in a fight with another tiger, then the male who protected her must have met with some accident, leaving her cubs without a guardian. Raising 3 cubs alone was nearly impossible. Even with Mom's mercy today, they probably wouldn't last more than a few days. Each day I spent following Mom on her rounds, then waiting for her to bring back meat to fill our bellies. If I could make it through this coming winter, by next year I would be a true tiger in every sense. Every night I slipped out alone to train in secret, following the same routine I had kept in my past life: night runs and early morning sprints. On top of that, I practiced climbing trees, building strength and explosive power in all four limbs. Whenever I came across wild ginseng along the way, I helped myself without hesitation. And of course, I often dragged little brother along with me. It was around this time, near the edge of Mom's territory, that a powerful tiger figure came walking slowly into view. It was Dad. He had crossed beyond his own boundary into Mom's territory, coming to check on little brother and me. As Dad rubbed his face against mine in greeting, I spotted something: a fresh scar across his chest and ribs, clearly left by another male's claws. Later, Dad told us what had happened. The tiger who had held the territory bordering Dad's had been killed by a rival adult male Amur tiger, who had then claimed that territory for himself. That explained all the panicked animals we had seen pouring into the area before. My guess was that the tigress who had invaded Mom's territory had likely lost both her mate and her home range in the upheaval, which was why she had wandered into Mom's territory, looking for food. Dad had clearly already tangled with this new tiger once, and the moment he was well enough to move, he came straight to us, clearly worried the new male might come after us next, because no matter how capable Mom was, she was no match for a full-grown male Amur tiger. Dad led us on a patrol through Mom's territory. Along the way, he said a lot to Mom. Things like if he wasn't around, and she ever ran into that new tiger, she should run. No hesitation. At the boundary of Mom's territory, Dad walked the perimeter carefully. No sign of the rival. But after crossing a slope, something disturbing came into view. A nearly decomposed Amur tiger cub, most likely one of the three that had invaded with the defeated tigress. Even the Amur tiger, apex of this world, has moments of helplessness and fragility. With one cub already dead, the surviving tigress and her remaining cubs were likely running out of time. Dad pressed on despite the stench, searching the area near the cub's body. Then, 2 kilometers away through the trees, another powerful figure emerged and locked eyes with Dad. Dad immediately directed a roar toward the distance. Sharp, clear, a warning shot. The rival tiger bore a long scar across his face, running from his forehead all the way down to his nose. This was the one Dad had already fought, a battle that had ended without a clear winner. The scarred tiger surveyed our family without expression, then turned and disappeared back into the forest, carrying the air of someone who would not strike first, but would not be struck without answer. The walk back from the boundary was quieter than usual. A weight hung in the air. Perhaps it was the pressure of having such a dangerous neighbor, but Dad had gone deep into thought. The tiger who had previously held that bordering territory was an old Amur tiger who had never been inclined to pick fights with a younger male like Dad. But now that territory had a new owner, and the threat hanging over Mom's side had grown considerably. Dad couldn't think of a clean solution. The scarred tiger hadn't actually crossed into his territory yet, so there was no justification to go on the offensive. But just as we were nearing the den on our way back, I caught a clear sound, something moving through the grass in the distance. I glanced at Mom and Dad ahead of me. Neither of them had noticed. An idea hit me immediately. I had been feeling noticeably stronger lately. Here was a chance to test it, and I might as well bring little brother along. We were almost at the den anyway. Couldn't be much danger out here. Following the faint sound, I crept forward with little brother in tow. When I was close enough, I pushed off hard and launched myself at the patch of grass where the sound was coming from. I felt something furry and fairly large beneath me. I looked down and froze. It was a tiger cub. Frail, skin and bones. One of the cubs that had come in with the invading tigress just days ago. How it had ended up back in our territory, I had no idea. Little brother wasn't thinking that deeply. To him, this was an intruder, plain and simple. He was going to do what Mom would do. Bite through this little tiger's neck. I stopped him fast, and a very different idea began forming in my head. I pulled little brother back, until we were completely out of the cub's sight. A few hundred meters behind the cub, tucked inside a cave formed by jagged rocks, was another cub, and lying beside it unmistakably was their dead mother. In less than 2 weeks, a family of apex predators had been reduced to this. I looked around at the forest, and made a bold decision. I was going to provide for these 2 orphaned cubs. My body was a tiger's, but deep down my soul was still human. Whether they survived, or whether Mom found them and killed them, that I would leave to fate. Little brother was bewildered by what I was doing. He had no idea how to react. Should he go tell Mom and Dad about the intruders? But when we got back to the den, little brother didn't make a sound toward Mom or Dad. He just found a corner and sulked alone. He simply couldn't understand why I would help the enemy. When dawn came, Dad prepared to leave. He had his own territory to manage, and being away too long invited trouble. In the days that followed, I trained every single day, and gradually I was able to bring down larger and larger prey on my own, with the mysterious energy inside me as fuel. Plus the occasional wild ginseng root, my body was becoming genuinely powerful. When it came to hunting and survival, I knew there was still a great deal left to learn. I had a human's mind and the body of an Amur tiger. If I could bring both together, the intelligence of a human and the raw power of a fierce Amur tiger, then perhaps I could stand at the very top of this mountain wilderness. During this time, whatever food Mom tossed my way, along with anything I caught myself, whenever I got the chance, I quietly slipped it to the 2 orphaned cubs behind Mom's back. But what really gave me trouble was this. Hunting skills get passed from parent to cub. Sooner or later, these two would need to learn how to hunt, and it looked like that job was going to fall on me. Eating, training, hunting, and feeding two orphans. This became the full shape of my daily life. After weeks of relentless training and accumulated hunting experience, something fundamental had shifted in how I carried myself. My build was now close to Mom's in size, and it was exactly because of that I started noticing the unfair treatment getting worse. Mom's share of food for me kept shrinking with every meal she brought back, and she had even started scolding me when we hunted together, throwing in a sharp roar or two, loaded with warning. I understood what this was. Mom was starting to see me as grown. Once a tiger matures, its territorial instincts sharpen. Add in my rapidly growing appetite over recent weeks, and Mom was sensing a threat, even though I was still not yet old enough to live on my own. I was already showing signs of competing with her for territory and food. That was why Mom's attitude toward me kept getting colder. Perhaps after this winter she would drive me out without mercy. It was the rule Amur tigers had followed for tens of millions of years, to ensure their own survival. Even if I went to hunt in Dad's territory, I would need his permission first. Otherwise I was an intruder, and blood ties meant nothing. Dad would show me no mercy. By my count, it was nearly time for Dad's next visit. I planned to bring this up with him when he came. After all, small prey in Mom's territory was already running thin, so from then on, whenever I went out to hunt alone, I made a point of going at least 30 kilometers from the den. I didn't expect trouble to follow me that far out. On my way back, dragging a moose carcass behind me, the scent of blood drifted wide on the wind. A massive black bear picked up the trail and came after me, and of all the bears in the forest, it had to be the one Dad had already thrashed once before. This was not something I was ready to take on. But looking at the kill I had spent hours hunting down, I really couldn't bring myself to just walk away. The bear was closing in fast. I panicked, dropped the carcass, and let out a full roar straight at it. Maybe the roar rattled it, or maybe my near-adult size gave it pause, but it actually stopped dead in its tracks. Then I made a serious mistake, one that erased all that hesitation in an instant. While the bear was still frozen, I picked up the carcass and kept walking. That was all it took to spark its curiosity. An Amur tiger afraid of a black bear? Especially while hauling a kill on its own turf? That detail told the bear everything. This tiger was uneasy, most likely a young one, freshly grown. With that much meat on the line, the bear made its move. I glanced back, and went still. The bear that had just been frozen in place was now standing on its hind legs, roaring straight at me. A challenge. A flat-out, open challenge. I dropped the kill and roared back without a second thought. This was a matter of dignity. The dignity of a future king. But that only confirmed what the bear suspected. I was a newly grown tiger with no real battle experience. To the bear, this was a gift. I met it without flinching. Every muscle in my body detonated at once, and I drove my teeth straight into the bear. I got a solid bite into its side, but it landed a heavy paw strike on me in return. Somehow I wasn't injured, but the pain only sharpened the bear's instincts, drawing out more of its fighting fury. I kept moving, dodging, using every edge I had, and inflicting as much damage as I could. But this big dark creature was built like a wall. Its defenses were absurd. I stopped caring about taking hits and went blow for blow, and the mysterious energy inside me surged awake, driving me harder with every exchange. The bear started losing its nerve. The moment we separated, it turned and bolted. My first real victory on my own terms, against a fully grown black bear. No Amur tiger my age could claim the same. It took over 2 hours, but I finally dragged the kill to flat ground. As I fed, I felt the energy inside me swell and deepen. I picked up what was left in my jaws, and headed toward where the 2 orphaned cubs were staying. Since Mom had started distancing herself from me more and more, my commitment to feeding the 2 orphans had become something I took seriously. After a month or 2 of feeding them, the 2 orphaned cubs no longer looked at little brother and me with any hostility. Amur tigers are intelligent creatures. They understood. If I could win their loyalty and shape them into devoted allies, then someday, under my lead, the most powerful team of Amur tigers in history might actually become real. 4 adult Amur tigers moving together. No matter how strong you were, that encounter would be your last. I dragged the food to the mouth of the rocky cave where the 2 orphans lived. This time, I set the food down and didn't walk away. I wanted to test these 2. If they still saw me as an enemy, I would stop taking care of them. I had come deliberately in this battered, injured state for exactly this moment. Even if they chose to attack me while I was hurt, I could handle them easily. When the 2 cubs spotted the food at the cave entrance, and then saw me nearby, injured, they stepped right over the food and came straight to me, letting out urgent, anxious cries. One of them began licking my wounds over and over. Feeling what these 2 little ones were doing, I knew I hadn't raised a pair of ungrateful beasts. Then I put on a show, as if summoning my last reserves of strength to push them both toward the food. These 2 sweet, clueless little cubs had never seen the world's cruelty. Seeing me this badly hurt and still thinking of them, they immediately pressed their heads into my fur and nuzzled against me with total devotion. Now that I had their trust and affection, and could keep them fed and growing, my dream of building the strongest tiger team that ever existed had a real chance of becoming reality. After pushing them toward again and again, the 2 little ones finally went at the prey, tearing and swallowing hungrily. To tell the 2 cubs apart more easily, I named them Tiger 1 and Tiger 2. For now, even fighting all out, I could only injure a black bear, not kill one outright the way a full-grown Amur tiger could. Still, this meant that, aside from the largest predators being off limits, I could now go head-to-head with mid-tier hunters like leopards. Just then, little brother came trotting over with a chunk of meat in his mouth. Tiger 1 and Tiger 2 watched him. Not hostile exactly, but not warm either. I decided right then to get all three of them training together, and use that time to build some team spirit between them, before any friction had a chance to grow into something worse. I led all three of them to a hidden ravine deep in the forest, and started their first real training session. We didn't stop until darkness fell and all three had collapsed from exhaustion. Although I had stopped eating the food Mom provided, I still circled back to the area around the den every few days to keep track of her movements, making sure she didn't find where Tiger 1 and Tiger 2 were hiding. I also used her hunting trips as a chance to shadow her and pick up whatever I could. The weather was slowly turning cold, and prey was growing harder to find. There was even one time we both locked onto the same prey at once. In the end, I backed off. Mom was the queen of this territory. That was just how it was. After turning it over in my mind, I decided to take the risk and hunt in Dad's territory. Before I left, I gave little brother clear instructions. Look after Tiger 1 and Tiger 2 no matter what. Because if Mom ever found out about them, she would kill them without a second thought. That was just the nature of an Amur tiger. Running in stretches over the course of about 2 weeks. I finally reached Dad's territory. Just as I had expected, the resources here were far more abundant. Wild boar, sika deer, and other grazing animals still appearing with some regularity. It took a little over 2 hours, but I finally cornered a sounder of wild boar. No finesse needed, just raw, explosive power. My burst speed alone was more than enough to overwhelm any boar alive. I took 2 boar, kept one for myself, and set the other aside as a gift for Dad, my way of acknowledging I had entered his territory. As the sky darkened, I moved into the hills where Dad's den was located. Before I even got close, something felt wrong. The grass around me was dead silent. I sent a loud roar out toward the valley ahead. Dad slowly emerges from the tall grass. If I barge in right now, I'll probably get a beating. I'm a tiger now. And to Dad, I've become a genuine threat. Maybe the familiar scent throws him off. 2 months apart, the tiny cub he once knew has grown into something close to a full-grown tiger. Even a father would need a moment. I can see the wariness in Dad's eyes clearly. I let out a quiet breath. Slowly, I lower my head and step back, yielding the wild boar I brought and making it clear I want nothing more than that. Dad walks forward and sniffs the prey I brought. He hesitates. His eyes move back and forth between the kill and me. I wait in silence. No rush. Among Amur tigers, a son killing his father and claiming the territory is not unheard of. Dad knows this. After nearly an hour of standoff, Dad finally makes his decision. He steps forward and rubs against my fur, then lets out a low rumble, and takes my wild boar and walks away. His warmth is gone, but he allows me to hunt in his territory, at least for now. His reaction is both exactly what I expected, and nothing like what I expected. I thought he'd drive me out without a second thought, or give me a beating. Instead, he leaves a door open, just barely, and not so directly. Maybe this one act of yielding carries the last trace of a father's love. But I understand, growing stronger is always the right choice, even if it means being pushed away by those who raised me. No regrets. I walk through Dad's territory on unsteady legs. In this moment, I feel the loneliness, the kind every Amur tiger must face at some point. Without the shelter of parents, my world will only grow wider. With Dad's permission, I won't starve when winter arrives. I got what I came for. I turn to head back. After walking a stretch, a leopard carcass appears in a clearing ahead. A powerful wave of unease hits me. I spin around immediately and bolt in the opposite direction. I'm not superstitious, but this time, I trust my instincts. I clear the overlapping zone quickly and enter Mom's territory. Just as I let out a breath, a chill shoots straight to my brain. A male tiger stands behind me, watching with cold, flat eyes. My body tries to tremble. I force it to stop. He had been tracking my trail the entire time. A cold dread washes over me. If I had been even slightly slower, I'd be a corpse right now. I don't back down. I face him and return his gaze with the same coldness. I filed this moment away. When I'm full grown, I will come back for this. But just as I've settled my nerves, a new wave of unease surges up. An angry roar tears through the forest, coming from exactly where I left Tiger 1 and Tiger 2. No, my heart drops. I take off toward the cave at full speed. At the cave entrance, little brother trembles before Mom, whose every hair stands on end. No matter how many times she snarls, little brother holds his ground. He remembered my words before I left. For the first time in his life, he roars at Mom. Mom freezes at the sound of that small, uncertain roar. She can't believe the cub she raised is capable of this. In her eyes, it's a disgrace. So when her son blocks her for the third time, her patience breaks. She raises one powerful paw and swats little brother 10 meters across the ground. Then she closes in on Tiger 1 and Tiger 2. Step by step, I arrive just in time. I plant myself between them and Mom. My first warning roar goes up immediately. I don't want to fight my own mother unless there's no other choice. But Mom ignores the warning. She bites into my shoulder without hesitation. I don't resist. Maybe the blood does something to her. The fury on her face slowly fades. Even a tiger won't consume her own young. She still remembers the last thread of family. What she can't understand is why her son would ever protect the offspring of an invader. Her expression shifts again and again. Then, finally, a decision settles over her. One clear, carrying roar, a final farewell, and she walks away without looking back. Little brother realizes what's happening. He runs after her. She kicks him away without breaking stride. I watch, and a heaviness settles in my chest. Both of us, driven out by our own mother without a second thought. I had imagined this day would come. I didn't think it would come this soon. But for what comes next, I had no choice. I had to protect Tiger 1 and Tiger 2, survive this winter, and I will become the undisputed ruler of this forest. This place is no longer safe for us. We need a new shelter, and fast. Close enough to stay near our parents' territories, but far enough to remain outside the rival tiger's range. 2 hours later, I find a temporary base for the 4 of us. Near water, sheltered by a natural rock formation. Maybe it hasn't sunk in yet. Little brother still has that distant look in his eyes. I don't go over to comfort him. Every Amur tiger walks its own road. But I want little brother to walk a different kind of life. 3 cubs to feed now. That means at least 1 solid kill per day, every day. Teaching all 3 of them to hunt also falls on me. A short rest, then we move out. As soon as we reach the edge of Mom's territory, the forest erupts in noise. I push the 3 of them into the grass. A pack of gray wolves emerges from the trees, over 20 in all, large and small. Individually, they're not impressive. Together, they're a problem. I don't know where this pack is headed, but for the safety of the 3 cubs, we wait. Plans never survive contact with reality. 2 or 3 wolves drift without thinking in our direction. It seems the pack wants to rest here. As predators, they sweep likely ambush spots first. I signal the cubs to stay silent. I scan the area and form a backup plan. If the wolves spot us, the cubs climb the nearest tall tree. With that handled, I have nothing to hold me back. Even a dozen adult gray wolves won't scare me. A few wolves take a few more steps forward, then stop dead. Something in the air terrifies them. Their legs begin to shake, out of their control. I see it. There's no staying hidden. Before they can howl and alert the rest of the pack, I strike first. We've been found. As an Amur tiger, you attack. The wolves erupt into a chorus of howls, then tighten into a defensive formation, using their numbers to bluff, trying to force me back. I answer with one deep, resonant roar. Every wolf except the alpha loses its nerve. The alpha bares its teeth, no intention of yielding. Too bad. This wolf could never have guessed it was facing an Amur tiger with a human soul, one who doesn't play by the script. I charge straight into the pack and go directly for the alpha. One paw sends it flying, then I stop. I have no interest in being swarmed. The rest of the wolves need no further convincing. Tails clamped, they scatter in every direction. The 3 cubs slide down from the trees. In their eyes, I'm more fearless than any full-grown Amur tiger. Their faces are full of something close to awe. I let out a low growl, eyes tracking the direction the wolves retreated, and feel a strange unease rising in my chest again, since settling in this region. The predators and prey moving through the area have been unusually frequent. I decide to take the initiative. Following my parents' example, I'll patrol this small stretch and drive out any mid to small predators competing for my food. I return to the den, lie down, and close my eyes for a while. I recover my strength, looking out at this territory that isn't yet mine. A fierce ambition stirs inside me. Starting now, I begin laying the foundation for the path ahead. One signal, and the 3 cubs fall in behind me. We set out on formal patrol. My presence isn't as commanding as a full-grown Amur tiger's, but today I intend to drive out every hunter in this area and make my authority known. This will probably irritate my parents. I don't care much anymore. By the time winter ends, this territory won't have room for me anyway. Today's patrol brings a feeling I've never had before. Maybe my roar carries too far, because somewhere out there, I managed to disturb Mom and Dad in the middle of their honeymoon on Dad's territory. Dad seems to understand exactly what I'm doing. He lets out a roar of his own, venting his displeasure. I don't take the warning seriously. I'm still his son. Unless I cross a line he won't forgive, he won't come for me. Besides, Dad is a tiger on his honeymoon right now. He has more important priorities. For him, the next generation comes first. When Dad's roar reaches me, I feel the strangest pull, like I just want to go home. I almost understand, just then, why Amur tigers drive their near-grown cubs away. I really am the difficult one here. Even at nearly full-grown size, there are still animals that don't fear me. On a nearby slope, 2 leopards sit side by side, watching my patrol from a distance. I study them for a moment. Then I recognize them. The leopard brothers. Enemies. When Dad was leading me and little brother on patrols, he killed one of their brothers. These 2 are what's left. Time in the forest seemed to have tempered them. Their presence is quieter, more contained. Maybe it's Dad's reputation holding them back. They don't charge down immediately. I underestimate the depth of their hatred for my family. As dusk falls and I lead the 3 cubs back toward the den, the 2 leopards step out of the trees and block our path. I have no idea where these survivors find the nerve to challenge me. Fine. A perfect opportunity to make an example. They recognize me clearly. Dad killed their brother, coming after his cub for revenge. From their perspective, that's only fair. I shield the 3 cubs behind me and let out a roar at the 2 leopards, like a ruler waiting for the challenger to make the first move. My size is noticeably larger than most tiger cubs, but the leopard brothers don't give me the credit I deserve. They spread apart, one left, one right, moving into a pincer. The fight is about to begin. All around us, predators in the trees are watching. This battle, I have to win, and win decisively. This is step 1 on the road to ruling this forest. Facing their pincer, I strike first, but the leopard brothers have sharpened their coordination over months of hard survival. When I lunge at one, the other slams into me from the side. When I'm forced to turn and defend, the first one comes in from the opposite angle. I don't fear the bites. The fat insulating my body is too thick for a leopard's jaw to do any real damage. But if I can land even one real bite on either of them, for a leopard that's fatal. I pour everything into the one in front of me, but I'm not fast enough. Every time I come within a breath of the throat, the leopard slips away. Then I find the answer. I fake a hard charge at the one in front, then pull back at the last second. When the leopard behind me closes in for the strike, I spin and bite down. A leopard's spine is both hard and brittle, and my bite force rivals that of a full-grown female Amur tiger. It snaps in an instant. The other leopard sees what's left of his brother and panics. He turns and runs, no direction in mind, just away. In his mind, a tiger cub should not be this dangerous. For the safety of the 3 cubs behind me, I don't give chase. This fight should make my strength clear to every predator watching. From this point on, aside from full-grown Amur tigers, no predator in this forest will dare face me head-on. With that settled, I lead the 3 cubs onward and continue the patrol. Then something familiar catches in the air. I look toward the distant slope, and Dad is there. This time he makes no sound. He simply watches from a distance, those deep, commanding eyes fixed on me, as if he's passing something along without words. Maybe this is his version of approval. But at the forest's edge, just as I'm about to cross into Mom's territory, a roar rises from the trees nearby. A completely unfamiliar male, a stranger. A few minutes later, another roar from a different direction. A second unfamiliar adult male. A tightness settles in my chest. And then, a familiar roar, deeper, heavier, rises from somewhere in the distance. As if in answer, I finally breathe. With Dad in his prime holding this territory, no outsider would dare push in, unless they could actually beat him in a fight. That's not going to happen. In size and raw strength, Dad stands at the top of every adult Amur tiger in this region. After a moment's hesitation, I decide to keep moving along the territory's edge for now, partly to respect Mom's territorial rights, and partly because I want to look at this new arrival. He's probably a young wanderer, freshly grown, roaming in search of a territory to claim, or circling the edges of claimed land, and throwing out a challenge to test the response. If there's no answer, or if the resident shows signs of age or weakness, he'll move straight in, if I can get a look at him, and size him up. It's useful information for the future. The further I go, the stronger the unease gets. A tiger's sixth sense is rarely wrong, so I send little brother ahead with Tiger 1 and Tiger 2 by a different route, and head toward the source of the roar myself. Sure enough, less than 2 kilometers in, I catch a glimpse through the trees. A lean, powerful adult Amur tiger. A fierce urge to fight surges through me immediately. Maybe he senses something. He turns and looks in my direction with sharp wariness, and even passes within meters of where I'm hiding. He's young, barely past full grown, but in weight, strength, and bite force, he has the edge on me. For now, charging in on pure adrenaline right now would be a mistake. I hold the urge down. I watch him pass. Give me 6 more months, and nothing in this forest will stand against me. What I don't notice in this moment is that my hunger for battle has been growing, quietly, steadily, and less like a human's. Mom has been focused on producing another litter with Dad, so her territory has been mine to hunt in, enough to feed all 4 of us. One day, while I'm out with the 3 cubs, teaching them to hunt, something unusual happens. From the zone where 3 Amur tiger territories converge, roars roll through the forest like waves crashing in, each one laced with fury. My sharp hearing picks up something underneath. 2 male tigers, fighting. I'm instantly alert, and I move fast. I'll be honest, I'm excited. A territorial battle. I've never seen one up close. Today I get to watch. After covering more than 10 kilometers, I find high ground with a clear view of the fight below. Every animal within range of those roars has already fled. One of the fighters is the young wanderer I spotted earlier. The other is not Dad, but the resident tiger who has long shared a peaceful border with Dad, holding the territory next door. The wanderer has apparently seen Dad, and calculated that this neighbor looks like the weaker target. The 2 tigers rise onto their hind legs like men brawling, raking each other's upper bodies with their claws. In no time both are covered in blood. When claws alone can no longer settle it, they drop into biting range and go for flesh. Pure brutality, nothing else. Among Amur tigers, these fights are the most savage and unsparing. Neither side yields easily. Darkness creeps in. Past the initial violence, both tigers are now grinding, enduring. Whoever shows weakness first will receive a killing blow. Both know the forest is full of witnesses. Destroying your opponent in front of an audience makes the victory mean more. Both are badly wounded, but not one watching predator shows contempt, only awe. After about half an hour of endurance, the resident tiger runs out of reserves first. The injury to his foreleg causes a barely visible sway. He corrects it immediately, but the wanderer already saw it. A shadow lunges. The territory so recently won changes hands again, falling to the young wanderer. No suspense. Even between 2 Amur tigers, no one walks away unbroken from a bite like that. The victor has emerged. A territory barely settled has changed hands once more, claimed by this young male. The defeated tiger in front of me is a vivid lesson in what losing costs. That's exactly why I've been biding my time, building strength in silence, waiting until I'm strong enough to walk my own path as a ruler, challenging territory after territory, until I stand above them all. I will surpass Dad, rule a wider forest, like a human king among Amur tigers, defeat them one by one, then grant them territories of their own to hold under my command. As the 3 cubs grow, their appetites grow with them. The pressure on me to hunt is increasing. I need my own territory, and soon, one large enough to feed all 4 of us. Outside Mom's territory, I move with extra caution. This region now holds not just Dad, but 2 unfamiliar males. Running into either of them would be very bad news. And of course, what you fear tends to find you. I've barely found a temporary resting spot when heavy footsteps approach through the trees behind me, an adult male. I can't tell yet if this is the tiger Dad blinded before. I've always suspected that one-eyed tiger carries something dark inside him. I jump to higher ground immediately, and look toward the sound. It is the one-eyed tiger, but his behavior is strange. He carries a fresh tiger skull in his jaws, and he's heading straight for the border between Dad's territory and the young wanderers. My calm breaks. Something close to dread settles in. I'm afraid that what I suspected before is slowly becoming real. Once that tiger skull turns up on Dad's territory, the consequences could be devastating. Then a chilling thought hits me. What if the one-eyed tiger is doing this on purpose, deliberately provoking a conflict between Dad and the young wanderer? Even if the wanderer can't beat Dad outright, a younger body can still land enough damage to weaken him. And then the one-eyed tiger moves in for the kill. The thought sends a chill straight through me. I watched enough nature documentaries in my past life to know, an Amur tiger should not be capable of playing this kind of scheme. To test my suspicion, I trail him at a safe distance, and watch the one-eyed tiger enter Dad's territory, then walk back out. About 10 minutes later. The tiger skull is gone. It's somewhere in Dad's territory now, hidden in the trees waiting to be found. The moment Dad finds it on patrol, a clash between the 2 neighboring tigers is inevitable. I can't tell Dad directly that the one-eyed tiger did this, but I can't just watch him get played either. And just as I'm about to cross into Dad's territory, an enraged roar cuts through the air. That's Dad. I push myself to full speed. I have to stop him before he reaches the wanderer's territory. But when I arrive, I know it's already too late. Dad stands there, eyes locked on the tiger skull, filled with cold fury. In Dad's mind, the new arrival next door has shown zero respect. Trespassing and leaving this as a provocation. This is an invasion. A king's dignity cannot be ignored. Those roars make it perfectly clear just how furious Dad is. If I step forward now without thinking, I'll probably become the first thing Dad takes his anger out on. Our bond isn't what it used to be. Right now, the priority is keeping Dad and the young wanderer apart. But more than that, what truly shocks me is the one-eyed tiger's calculating, patient scheming. This is beyond what any ordinary Amur tiger should be capable of. Could he be like me, carrying a human soul inside? Dad is a powder keg right now. The one-eyed tiger lit the fuse, and the young wanderer next door is the flame. Dad stalks toward the territory's edge, eyes dark. Rage has taken over completely. Meanwhile, the young wanderer is patrolling his new forest with pride, spraying scent markings on the trees as he goes, staking his claim and warning off intruders. But in the next moment, a terrifying roar erupts inside his territory. The new ruler drops his excitement in an instant. A male tiger has come to his door, roaring openly, issuing a direct challenge. For a tiger who just defeated a rival, how could he possibly back down? I watch Dad close the distance toward the wanderer's territory, and my anxiety peaks. I can't wait any longer. The moment Dad crosses into the young wanderer's territory, I throw caution aside. From the trees nearby, I let out a roar, doing my best impression of Mom. It seems Dad hears it. A sound comes back from the distance. I see Dad halt in place. I breathe again. In a crisis, nothing stops a tiger like the sound of his mate. But when Dad turns and sees it's me, the brief calm vanishes. His fury comes roaring back. Before I can even begin to signal what I saw, Dad's paw comes out of nowhere and sends me spinning. A warning roar follows, no disguising his anger. Dad is furious, probably not thrilled about me impersonating Mom. I push forward anyway, roaring back, trying to warn him about what's ahead. But before I finish, the young wanderer steps out of the trees across from us. The air goes rigid. Whatever stands between Dad and me, that's family business. When the young wanderer closes in, Dad steps in front of me without hesitation. The 2 males lock eyes across the space between them, the dangerous light in their amber eyes burning hotter by the second. I scan the surrounding trees. Instinct tells me the one-eyed tiger is watching from somewhere nearby, enjoying every second of this. Seconds later, both tigers accelerate toward each other at the same moment. Dad is a seasoned veteran. The instant the young wanderer lunges for a bite, Dad's massive paw swings out at exactly the right distance. The young wanderer takes the full force of it. A flicker of fear crosses his eyes. He shakes off the daze, resets his stance, and launches himself at Dad again with full conviction. Same result. Dad's experience reads the move before it lands, and another paw sends him back. Being toyed with like this burns. The humiliation is unbearable. Twice now. 2 charges, 2 casual swats. His face is stinging. The young wanderer snarls, low, furious, relentless, pacing back and forth, searching for an angle, waiting for the right moment to strike. And that's when I spot him, the one-eyed tiger, perched on a rock 2 kilometers away, watching everything unfold below in perfect silence. I watch Dad and the wanderer face off, wanting to intervene, but afraid of making things worse. Dad has no intention of holding back. He begins looking for an opening. His combat experience runs deep, far beyond anything the young wanderer can match. Dad moves. He seizes the moment and launches himself at the wanderer, his body rises into the air like a shadow spreading overhead, swallowing the young tiger beneath him in an instant. Pinned under Dad's full weight, teeth locked into his body, the young wanderer finally understands the true terror of what he challenged. The fear in his eyes is almost something you can touch. If he survives today, he will never set foot near Dad's territory again for the rest of his life. After a long moment, Dad releases his grip, then lets out a deafening roar directly into the wanderer's ear. The ultimate warning. Dad doesn't go in for the kill. There seems to be an unspoken code between male rivals. The one-eyed tiger, meanwhile, has already vanished without a sound. What I don't know is that the moment Dad and I leave, the one-eyed tiger reappears without a trace of sound and runs his tongue along the blood left on the ground. He circles the scene, finds that every drop of blood belongs to the young wanderer, and something shifts behind those calm eyes. A flicker of contempt. He lowers his nose to a few strands of Dad's fur left on the forest floor. In his one remaining eye, the coldness deepens. 3 months pass in a blink. During that time, the young wanderer occasionally appears at the territory's edge, sprays a quick scent marking and leaves in a hurry. But one day, out hunting with little brother, I sense something wrong in the forest. I go out of my way to check the young wanderer's scent markings. Something's off. Even when he feared Dad and Mom, this young male would still sneak to his territory's edge to mark it. Now the scent is noticeably faint. That doesn't add up. If a male tiger stops marking his territory, there's only one explanation. The thought surfaces in my mind and stops me cold, especially when I think back to the one-eyed tiger's strange behavior. The unease deepens. After this discovery, I push deeper into the area, covering dozens of kilometers, checking 2 or 3 marking spots across several kilometers of range. Every scent marking that should be there is gone. Something unknown has happened here. I decide to head straight for the heart of the young wanderer's territory. What I find shatters everything I thought I knew. As I approach the young wanderer's den, animal carcasses begin appearing along the way. Dead animals in an Amur tiger's territory are nothing unusual, but the sheer number of them makes even me shudder. This is a massacre, indiscriminate, targeting everything. I climb to high ground and look out. Within 1 or 2 kilometers there are over 100 carcasses. I inspect them closely. Most were killed by a single bite to the throat. Even mid to large animals like wild boar, their cervical vertebrae are crushed. What's truly disturbing is that the bodies look drained. Nothing left but skin and bone, based on the current weather and the level of decomposition. All of these animals were killed within the past 2 weeks. But what frightens me most is this. Not only did I, living at the territory's edge, notice nothing, even my experienced parents sense nothing unusual. Moving through this place, I feel an enormous pressure, as if the forest itself has become something vast and watching. Eyes fixed on this stretch of land, the silence is unnatural. Not even the birds will land here. Fighting through the mental weight of it, I edge closer to the den. Within 200 or 300 meters of the entrance, I catch something in the air. The young wanderer's familiar scent, another unfamiliar tiger-like smell. And beneath it all, blood. Dense, overwhelming, absolute. I step into the darkness ahead. A faint glow reaches me, and then I see it clearly. A flower, grotesquely vivid, radiating the overwhelming smell of blood. At its crown, a tiny red fruit releases an irresistibly sweet fragrance into the air. But what truly terrifies me is where this plant has taken root. Countless tendrils have burrowed into the young wanderer's flesh and bone, writhing steadily, drawing out nutrients, and feeding them upward into the plant. What I'm seeing is too strange. It exceeds anything I can make sense of. Then, in a daze, the sweet fragrance reaches me again, and my front paw moves forward on its own. Then everything changes. City towers, neon lights, the scenes of a life I had almost forgotten since being reborn as a tiger, all of it floods back. I look down at myself. The thick tiger paws are gone, 5 human fingers in their place. Ahead, a wave of warmth and familiarity pulls at me. I want to step forward, call out, ask if I know this person, but a sharp spike of unease cuts through it, and I stop the foot before it falls. Then the pain hits, deep and piercing. When I open my eyes again, nothing has changed. I'm still an Amur tiger. Not even my paws look different, but the sinister plant has been working its way into me. Its tendrils have already broken through the fur at my paw and touched the blood beneath. I look toward the corner of the den. The young wanderer, who had been letting out faint, agonized sounds just moments ago, is now a corpse. The scene is identical to every animal outside. I snap back to myself and instinctively reach with my claws to tear the sinister plant's tendrils free. To my shock, they don't break. I clamp my jaws down hard on the tendrils and push every tooth into it, fighting down the revulsion and grinding my jaws together, chewing through the sinister plant with everything I have. Then a wave of warmth surges through my body. No time to think about it. I just need to get out of here. The tendrils are still lodged in my paw. I can't shake them loose, so I wrench hard and bolt out of the den, dragging the entire sinister plant with me. I push through the discomfort without slowing, and only stop once I'm inside Mom's territory. Thinking back to what little I swallowed of the sinister plant, I bite down on it again. A rich, intense fragrance floods my mouth instantly. The sinister plant's stem goes rigid as stone, and at that moment, the mysterious energy inside me surges violently, and in one instant, the hardened plant is torn to pieces. As the sweet liquid from the sinister plant's body flows down into my stomach, the mysterious energy inside me erupts into frenzy, racing through every part of my body at 10 times its normal intensity. I can feel my body changing, clearly, undeniably. Whatever liquid this plant carries, it amplifies the mysterious energy enormously. The feeling of power surging through me is intoxicating. Meanwhile, the one-eyed tiger slips silently into the den I just left. But almost immediately, he senses something wrong. The red plant he coveted is gone. He searches the den and slowly picks up a thread, the scent of another tiger. He follows it. Clearly, his recent disappearance is tied directly to this plant. By this point, I've swallowed the sinister plant whole. This enhanced body, my nose and ears now reach far further than before, and my speed and strength have taken a massive leap forward, fully reaching the level of an ordinary adult male Amur tiger. Even I don't notice it at first, but while I'm running, my body is undergoing changes that go beyond simple growth, something like evolution. A strange, unfamiliar sensation spreads through every part of me. Gradually, I realize my condition is becoming more and more unusual. I don't dare linger in the forest and surge toward the den at full speed, but a dizziness like being drunk keeps growing stronger. In just a few kilometers, I crash into and split dozens of trees. The one-eyed tiger, following behind me, takes in this trail of destruction and shows no surprise, as if he's been through exactly this before. He follows for another few kilometers, then stops, expression complicated. In this moment, he knows exactly who I am. He stands in the forest for a long moment in thought, then he abandons the pursuit. Even though he risked his life to obtain that sinister plant, and even though his own strength has grown considerably from it, he still isn't confident he can win this fight. Not now. Back at the den, the two younger cubs find the crawling plant almost fascinating. They move closer, leaning in for a better look. Little brother startles briefly at first, then quickly grows just as curious. And at that moment, a pair of powerful paws slam down hard in front of them. The sinister plant's tendrils were centimeters away from reaching the small tigers. At the critical moment, my paw came down and saved them. My head is still spinning. I opened my eyes, barely focused, caught the scene in front of me, and slammed my paw down without a second's hesitation. But the impact stuns even me. I barely used any force, and my claws have sunk more than 10 centimeters into the ground. I'm stunned by the power of my own paw, and equally stunned by the sweet liquid that sinister plant produces. This liquid is extraordinary. From the moment I first saw the sinister plant, I knew this was no ordinary world, and in the future, things far more unbelievable may still be coming. To grow stronger, I must seize every opportunity in front of me, and this sinister plant may be exactly that opportunity. I glance at the sinister plant, now flattened into the dirt. I hook it up with my claws, and wave the three cubs back. I head to where I'd left some animal remains earlier, and find a wild boar leg bone. I set the sinister plant on top of it. Nothing happens. The sinister plant plays dead, limp and dry as if it were withered. I can feel that it's still alive. Every bit of this performance is an act. I say nothing. I step closer, and slowly, deliberately, begin grinding my freshly sharpened teeth together. An unmistakable threat. With my current size and newly amplified strength, if I were to chew through this sinister plant the way I did before, my teeth would shred it to pieces, and that would be the end of it. A soft sound, like a blade being drawn, and the sinister plant snaps from limp to rigid in an instant. Then, under my gaze, its tendrils dart down and take root in the wild boar leg bone with surprising ease. I watch it closely. Its tendrils penetrate solid bone without effort, burrowing in to draw out whatever nutrients it needs. Thinking back to everything I saw, a wariness takes hold. I don't know what else this thing is capable of. If it spreads through this forest, it will be a disaster for every living creature here. The three cubs can't make sense of it. Why was their brother just lying on the ground? Body making strange sounds, something strange crawling out of his mouth, and then suddenly snapping awake and acting so strangely? They trot over, circle around me, and stare at the strange scene. I nudge the three curious cubs aside and keep my eyes on the sinister plant. The red fruit at its crown is almost completely faded, and the thumb-thick stems have shrunken considerably, looking frail and sickly. But once the tendrils take root in the boar leg bone, faint points of light begin gathering at the roots, rising layer by layer up the stem, and flowing into the fruit at the crown. I begin to understand. This sinister plant sustains itself by drawing out the life force of other living things, condensing it into the fruit at its crown and using it to evolve. The sight leaves me unsettled. Is this forest about to be turned completely upside down? My eyes, changed by the mutation, are no longer pure amber. A faint crimson bleeds through them now as I stare at the sinister plant, dangerous and terrifying, yet full of opportunity. Risk and reward side by side. I let out a quiet breath. Then I warn the three cubs to keep their distance from the sinister plant and take off into the forest. Less than 15 minutes later, I return with a freshly killed rabbit in my jaws. I glance over at the sinister plant. It hasn't moved, still rooted in the now depleted boar leg bone, swaying gently in the mountain wind with its frail little body, looking exactly like a mischievous little spirit that has learned to play innocent. I walk over and drop the dead rabbit beside it. Before I can do anything else, the sinister plant moves on its own, tendrils shifting eagerly toward the rabbit. In less than 8 minutes, a rabbit weighing several pounds has been drained completely of its life force. For this plant, it seems nothing much has changed. Wherever it ends up, something feeds it. The sinister plant stirs with what seems like awareness, its body swaying slightly, then lowers itself before me in something almost like a bow, and extends a single tendril toward me. From the tip of the tendril, a droplet of jade-green liquid the size of a pinhole appears, suspended in the air. I understand. This droplet of jade-green liquid is the rabbit's entire life force, distilled. This time, I don't take it for myself. I glance back at the three cubs, and call little brother over. Following my signal, little brother extends his tongue. The jade-green liquid drops from the sinister plant's tendril. A rich, clean fragrance floods his mouth instantly, then vanishes into his body, merging with his blood, spreading to every part of him. He takes a few steps forward, already unsteady, and before he even reaches me, he hits the ground with a thud. I rush over. His breathing is steady. He's just unconscious. I let out a breath and settle in beside him to wait. After producing that single droplet of jade-green liquid, the sinister plant wilts noticeably, as if even that much is a real strain on it. But I see through it now. One drop is nowhere near its limit. The weakness is at least partly performed for my benefit. I have to admit, this thing doesn't act like a plant. It acts like a plant that has grown a personality, one that understands how to navigate relationships, how to play weak, how to disguise itself, and how to side with whoever holds power with absolute perfection. If the one-eyed tiger could see this, he'd probably be furious. He fed this thing so much and got only a few drops of jade-green liquid in return, having to beg for every one of them like a beggar waiting on a lord's charity. I understand what the sinister plant's appearance means and what it could do to this forest, but I also understand this may be the sign that a new world is beginning. I need to be ready before it arrives. The sudden turn of events has disrupted my plans. I watch over little brother closely, and once I'm certain there's no danger to his life, I allow myself to relax. After 2 hours of waiting, little brother finally opens his eyes, groggy, not quite adjusted to what he just went through. Before I can observe him properly, it's time to go hunting again. I remind all three cubs to keep away from the sinister plant, then head back into the forest. The changes my body went through were painful, but the gains are significant. Even now I can feel it, the enormous power stored inside my body. Winter has arrived. I not only need to feed 3 hungry cubs, I also need to find enough prey to keep the sinister plant fed, so it produces more of that sweet jade-green liquid, at least enough for all 3 cubs to evolve. While waiting for little brother to wake, I worked out that the jade-green liquid has an extraordinary effect on physical development, and that with enough of it taken consistently over time, it could even break through genetic limits, evolving a creature into a higher form of life entirely. Something ignites in my chest. My speed through the forest has climbed sharply. I can now leap 6 or 7 meters in a single bound. After testing it in the forest, I look at the basketball-sized crater my paw left in the earth, and find my own strength genuinely difficult to measure. And the gains from this aren't limited to strength and speed. My vision, hearing, and all other senses have improved dramatically as well. A complete across-the-board upgrade. I can't help but feel elated. With the strength I have now, even if I cross paths with another adult Umur tiger, I have what it takes to hold my ground, or beat them outright. With this in mind, I plan to keep the sinister plant well supplied, so the jade-green liquid it produces can be given to the 3 cubs one by one, helping them grow as fast as possible. If there's ever enough left over, I'll consider sharing some with mom and dad too. The gains are exciting, but another thought surfaces immediately. If something like the sinister plant can exist here, what other unknown powerful creatures might be out there, ones I know nothing about? Unease begins to settle in. I find myself already planning, already thinking through how to handle what might be coming. A few small tigers won't be enough. I need to bring mom and dad on board, and soon. Only then will we have the strength, before the great upheaval arrives, to face whatever dangers are coming. Lost in thought, my nose catches something, a heavy scent, thick with blood. A black bear feeding. My mind identifies it immediately, about 10 kilometers ahead and to my left. I don't hesitate. I want to find out, with the strength I have now, can I actually take down a black bear, or even kill one? The thought alone is enough. The power in my body ignites, and I tear through the forest at extraordinary speed, closing the distance as fast as I can. 10 kilometers, not far, not close. I push hard, holding my power in check, and arrive in about 10 minutes. The black bear is digging into a fresh wild boar carcass, steam still rising from it. He jerks his head up, sees me, and freezes for just a moment. Then a furious, dangerous roar erupts from him. His body has grown fat and round for winter. It jiggles as he charges toward me. I'm not intimidated by a bear that outweighs me. As he closes in, I answer with a roar and move to meet him. One massive dark paw swings hard at my face. My eyes lock on, tracking the arc of the blow, reading its trajectory. I lower my head just enough, load my left paw with force, and drag it across the bear's soft belly. A sharp tearing sound cuts through the air. When I pull up and turn back, the bear's abdomen has been opened by a deep gash. White fat bulges from the wound, streaked with blood, and through a thin membrane, his internal organs are clearly visible. The bear lets out an anguished cry, the fire in his eyes instantly replaced by fear. He hasn't lost the will to fight, but this tiger cub's claws are razor sharp, and they cut through his defense in a single pass. Fear takes over. If he stays, he'll die. Enduring the pain, he drops to all fours, and flees toward his den in the distance. I'm not giving him that chance. I push off hard, and once I'm at full speed, catching the fleeing bear is effortless. No tricks, no flourishes. I leap, land squarely on the bear's back, and drive my full weight down to pin him. The bear thrashes and rolls, swiping at my throat with his claws. The swipe barely disturbs my fur, just a few faint white marks on my skin, which fade almost immediately. I hadn't expected my skin to be this tough. I had been worried, but now I can relax. Without hesitating, I find the moment and clamp my jaws around the bear's throat. The bear's thick neck is too wide to sever in one bite, but once I have my grip, my jaws close with full force, and I take out half his throat in a single press. The bear dies on the spot. I lick the blood from around my mouth and look at the twitching carcass before me. A quiet moment of reflection. With my current strength, killing a black bear is no longer a challenge. If anything, it was almost easy. All of it, thanks to the sinister plant. With calm clarity, I grab the bear by the paw and start dragging. I glance back at the wild boar the bear was feeding on. I'm not leaving that behind either. I'll bring both back. Part of it feeds the 3 cubs. Part of it feeds the sinister plant, to be refined into more jade green liquid. A clean, easy fight. It shows me and confirms just how much my strength has surged. If I wanted to, I now have the strength to challenge a full-grown adult male tiger and set my eyes on his territory. I plan to scout the surrounding area next. If the territory the young wanderer once held shows no trace of the one-eyed tiger, I'll seriously consider whether to bring that territory under my own rule.